Welcome back to Red Cedar Radar. We have an addition to our crew today. Paul is back. We are here to talk about Michigan State's, would you call it a sneaky win over Illinois or
Solid.
solid
Solid.
win? Gritty. I think that's
A lot
good.
of adjectives.
Gritty win over Illinois here at the Breslin. So first, let's start players of the game. Trey Holloman had a great game point-wise. I thought he was a good energy guy throughout the game, really kind of focusing on getting the crowd in the game constantly. But who else stood out to you guys?
Cohen Carr kind of had a surprisingly good game. I mean, he kind of did a lot of the things he usually does. He came off the bench. He brought some energy. He had a huge three, which was a huge momentum builder. And then he also had a big dunk in the second half, which really kind of allowed MSU to keep that momentum in the second half that they eventually rode to victory.
Absolutely.
Frankie Fiddler, I thought had quiet, 11 points in the game. So he was one of the three Michigan State players in double digits. So I thought he had he continued what he did against Penn State, brought it into today, helped Michigan State get a big win today.
Yeah, you guys are kind of stealing my ideas here, but I think Izzo coached a pretty good game today. I think he made some pretty good line decisions. The one thing I'd maybe disagree with was putting Jace Richardson on Riley. That's a size mismatch there, but it was kind of one of those, who else are you going to put on him type things. But there's the foul-up three decision. I know Paul doesn't necessarily agree with it, but
Nope.
people have been asking him to do that, and he made that adjustment. Overall, he made the necessary adjustments after MSU was kind of overwhelmed to start this game, and it's part of the reason they won this one.
Yeah. You have something?
No,
Okay. So positives overall, like Paul said, gritty. They came out, and I think you even tweeted that they got punched in the mouth right away. But they were able to regain their confidence, which isn't something that we would always see in the years past when things like that would happen. Things would kind of spiral, and it would be a done deal from there. But I thought they were able to regain their confidence pretty quickly and start to put some things together to end the first half in a tie. Other pointers.
You talked about getting punched in the mouth. We hadn't seen them get punched in the mouth in a while, especially at the beginning of the game. I believe the 10-point deficit, I think it was 20-10, was their largest deficit since the Memphis game. If that might be wrong, but first time they've had a real deficit in a long time. And they found a way to respond. I'm sure being at home helped, but still it says a lot about this team when you're playing it's a quad 1A game. One of the best teams in the conference. Ken Palm loves them. All the metrics love them, and you find a way.
I thought they shut down Riley after he got 16 points second half. He was really limited. Jackie Sonosai, he only played 9 minutes for Illinois. Their best player, he was averaging 16 coming into this game. Only played 9 minutes. I think he ended the game with 3 points, so he was a non-factor basically. But I think it speaks highly of Illinois that they were still able to kind of punch back, had the lead for most of this game. So I still think Illinois is a great team. And I'm not a huge fan of the 8 people or rankings or whatever, but I think both these teams are top 15, maybe even top 10 quality teams.
Top 10.
Yeah, so my takeaway from this game is I think both these teams are really good. I think they can both make deep runs in March.
Yeah, I would agree. In some ways, a lot of the way the game flowed, it was almost surprising that Michigan State did win. I mean, you had, just kind of mediocre performances from Akins and Richardson particularly, and the fact that the other guys, that we already mentioned, Holloman, Frankie Fiddler, and Carr were able to kind of lift the team up. And, I mean, they missed a lot of shots, quite honestly. They didn't, shoot that well from the outside. They kept trying to go inside with, varied success. They were getting killed on the boards in the first 10 minutes of the game. That turned around by the end. But they kind of did a lot of things wrong, but yet they were still able to get out a win. It is still pretty impressive. But as you guys said, Illinois is a heck of a basketball team. They're going to be playing well into March, I would predict.
I feel like that's been a trend for this team, like with the three-point shooting at the start of the year. They were doing a lot of things wrong with that, but they still found a way to win all the time. And I wonder how long that can continue for them. Is that something that a team can carry over all year long into March? Or, what will that look like for them going forward? I'll be curious, and I've been curious, and it's been working out, so maybe it will continue to work out.
They didn't have to rely. I think it was in the game plan to not rely on the three-point shot. Well, everyone, the struggles from the perimeter are well documented at this point. But also, Illinois, I believe, has a top 10 defense nationally in terms of defending the three. It doesn't take a genius to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't rely on the three-point shot. They only took 10 the entire game. Cohen Carr made one. That's about as random as it gets. But, they drove the paint the whole game. I think Kohler and Zapata didn't play that much, but Kohler and Booker played pretty well. I think Kohler had a few offensive rebounds. It was like one where right before halftime he got an offensive rebound and laid it in, about 3 seconds on the clock. It's just they just kind of did the little things after not doing that at first.
It's also interesting the distribution of points as well as the distribution of minutes. I was curious if playing one of the probably, possibly even the best team MSU has played this year. I don't know if I would take Memphis or Kansas over this Illinois team in a neutral field, honestly, or a neutral court, honestly. It was curious if he would tighten up the rotation and guys would start to creep closer to 30, 32 minutes per game. We didn't see that. We still saw the max amount of time played was about 25, 26 minutes. And every Spartan that played had at least 4 points.
I think the optimistic part about it's Izzo sticking true to his gun is probably sticking true to his guns is it means he thinks the team just has enough as is to go get a win here. It's like sometimes when you're playing a team like this, you kind of like seize up and think you have to be 120% of what you really are, and you overcoach, you give guys too many minutes, and Izzo's like, we play our game here, we'll be fine, and that's what happened.
And I think the whole strength in numbers thing, distributing minutes, like the points being pretty evenly distributed, I think that takes a load off of Aiken's shoulders a lot. Because the talk coming into the season was, can Aiken step up and be a consistent guy that they go to, game in, game out? Can he put up double-digit points a game? I don't really think he needs to do that for this team to be super successful, because it just seems like someone random pops off on the stat sheet every game. So I think it takes a load off Aiken's shoulders a lot.
They have about 7-8 guys who can go give you 15, 16, and I'll probably discount like Zapala. He's probably not going to give you 20. But probably not in a Big Ten. Not in a, you could,
the trend that we've been seeing.
But it's statistics. You have X amount of players who can do it. Chances are someone's going to do it, and you're pretty consistently going to be in the position to go win a game.
And the players haven't given Izzo a reason to tighten the rotation because they're all contributing, they're all playing well. And if they can do it against Illinois, they can do it all year. So I know some people are worried about that minutes distribution, but if it's working, it's working. So
I talked with all the guys in the locker room about strength in numbers, and I'm gonna write something up about it. So check that out on Spartans Illustrated. But they all seem 100% bought in to that motto, and I think that matters so much, because if they're not 100% bought in, if you're a guy sitting on the bench, you're not going to love it. But it seems like nobody has those feelings based off, one, how the game went, and two, what they said in the locker room.
It's just buying in. It's another reason, it's clear Izzo still has it. It's tough to manage 10 guys' egos. Like, Aikens could very easily be sitting in the locker room thinking, I should be getting 31, 32 minutes a night. And would he be wrong necessarily? Probably not. But like Jace Richardson could be asking for more minutes. So many guys probably deserve, quote unquote, more minutes, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I guess as far as moving forward, I'm going to be very curious to see what the AP poll is tomorrow. It doesn't really matter, but if Illinois drops, they shouldn't. No, Illinois is 19 right now. There are not 18 teams better than them. I can promise you that.
No way. But they have 3 Big Ten losses, which is crazy. They're 3 games behind MSU.
I know they lost. Who else did they lose to? USC and
Michigan State, and then they lost, I think, to Northwestern at Northwestern in December.
Road loss.
So that happens.
Some random. It's college basketball, random stuff. Like, that's a really good team they just played today.
And you do wonder, MSU seems like they probably have a dumb loss or two in them still. And maybe, if they go down to Champaign and get beat by 30, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
So losses are coming, but, so far they've avoided them.
They have the MSG curse coming up.
Yeah, the MSG curse is real. That's real. It's scary.
And one thing they need to tighten up is the offensive rebounding. I thought they did a better job second half. I'm talking about preventing offensive rebounds by the opponent. Illinois had like 8 pretty early on the offensive glass. So that also needs to be tightened up. Some other things need to be tightened up. But overall, I think this team's on the right path to success. So I think they're playing really well right now.
Yeah, they actually did pretty well on offensive. Their own offensive rebounds. I actually think the number was pretty even at the end. I remember looking up and I'm like, wow, the rebounding numbers are pretty much deadlocked now. And I think that's part of the reason MSU was able to come back into this game is they figured out how to rebound and box guys out and get second chance points.
Yeah, they definitely cleaned that up late because it was a kind of a disaster early, and that's probably what led to the 10-point deficit. But by the end, both teams were like between that 33-35% offensive rebounding rate, which is that's pretty good for both teams. So, but it's also pretty even. So hence the score was close.
Anything else that you want to share? I feel like we covered it pretty well. I will be at Madison Square Garden, so the MSG curse is out the window.
Have you been to MSG before?
I've never been.
We'll see, that'll fix it.
Beautiful
Yeah.
arena.
Yeah.
I've seen
Kevin
it.
and I will be there, and I think Greg, the photographer, will be there too. So if you see us on TV, shout us out. I don't know where we'll be sitting, probably not courtside, but it would be cool if I was. I think that Rutgers is a beautiful team for sure for Michigan State, and it being kind of at
You can
MSG.
centralize on two people. That's the thing about Rutgers.
Yeah. It seems likely MSU can take away any two guys if they want to. So
I don't know if you can take away their two guys, but you can probably contain them if you really need to.
Anything else before I go it off?
So,
Okay. Subscribe to Red Cedar Radar wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on YouTube to see our smiling, beautiful faces. And consider subscribing to Spartans Illustrated to read kind of our post-game stuff and everything going forward with MSU basketball season. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.